Hello, and welcome to Podsothoth, a Lovecraft Book Club, and I'm your host and narrator, Todd Beardsley. This is episode 0 of the podcast, in which I'll give you some notes on just how it works. Structurally, the podcast comes in 2 flavors. Each story will first be read in its entirety with only minor soundscaping and audio engineering. These odd-numbered episodes are played straight, comparable to a regular audiobook reading of Lovecraft stories. That episode will then be followed by an even-numbered discussion episode featuring my attorney and wife, Claire Reynolds, who will have just read the story for the first time. Those discussions tend to revolve around the story itself and our impressions on it, as well as Lovecraft's influences, themes, and linguistic peculiarities. Often, we'll veer into tangentially related topics such as movies, TV shows, and tabletop games that are inspired by or evocative of Lovecraft and his work. These episodes can be charitably described as intellectual comedy, punctuated by ridiculous audio drops. It's all very book club style, but with a soundboard. Now, a note on the content. Since this is a horror/comedy podcast, it's likely that from time to time there will be some elements that some listeners may find offensive. Notably, Lovecraft himself is well known by fans and scholars alike to have held particularly racist personal views, even for a man of his time, place, and background. The fact of Lovecraft's racism is undisputed today. However, people still debate and argue about the degree to which his racism influences his work. Rest assured, when we notice it cropping up in his stories, we will not hesitate to point it out and discuss it, since we feel that it's important, as Lovecraft fans, to be aware of and call out these examples. In the most obvious cases of direct racism, such as the use of slurs, those specific words will be changed in the reading as to make Lovecraft's stories more suitable for modern, non-racist consumption. This is an editorial choice that we've made over the course of recording Podsothoth, and we will nearly always note the change in the text in the discussion episode when it happens. So, while we are acutely aware of Lovecraft's problematic politics, we are nonetheless fans of his work. Lovecraft was a brilliant author, and his stories have shaped the horror genre to a degree rarely seen in American writing. That said, the line between horror and comedy is often quite blurry, and when we often take the piss,
Scale of 1 to 10, how British am I?
It's all done from a place of respect and admiration for his work. Finally, like with most podcasts, we only really figured out what we were doing around episode 25 or so. You might want to start around there with the Curse of Yig, and then fill in the backlog once you've caught up. Don't worry, we don't seem to have many long-running bits or references, and I select the stories to read mostly in random order. Therefore, listening out of order won't really degrade your experience. If you end up liking what you're hearing, please take a moment to rate us positively on your podcast app of choice. Doing so helps other people find the show. Also, feel free to reach out to us over email or Mastodon. If your comments are particularly trenchant, we'll certainly respond to them on the show. If you want more hot takes on Lovecraft, we recommend the 2010 to 2012 era of the H.P. Lovecraft Literary Podcast by Chad Pfeiffer and Chris Lackey, as well as the 2023 to 2025 era of Learning Lovecraft by Jason McKittrick and Ken James. Both are great. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen to episode 0 of Podsothoth, a Lovecraft Book Club.